Revealed, how a janitor's daughter speaking Mandarin gave a billionaire an incredible Life-Chang. Ava stood at the entrance of her high school, the walls buzzing with chatter, laughter, and the hollow sound of privilege. She felt like a shadow among the bright lights, the rich kids flaunting their new sneakers, their glossy phones, and their carefree lives. The air was thick with their laughter, and Ava's heart beat in time to their elite rhythm. Her dad, a janitor, worked long hours for little pay, while she fought to keep herself afloat in a world that didn't see her. But she felt their stares, the dismissive glances when they didn't think she was listening. Yet there was a fire in her, stoked by years of her parents' sacrifices. They fled from China for a better life, and Ava was determined not to waste it. She spent late nights perfecting her Mandarin, the language slipping through her lips like water fluid, beautiful, powerful. It was her lifeline, a connection to her heritage that few of her classmates appreciated. When news of the scholarship came exclusive to a prestigious university, Ava's heart raced. The acceptance letter felt like a golden ticket. No more ghosting through hallways. This was her chance to prove not only to them but to herself that she belonged. The weighty words, "congratulations," flooded her mind, igniting dreams of a future she could own, but what awaited her was a world more polished than she'd ever imagined. Every corner of the campus shimmered with affluence, and her proud admission felt like a whisper drowned out by the glittering silence of wealth. The polished students overshadowed her hard-earned accomplishments just by walking past. Ava felt small, again. That is when she met James, the billionaire entrepreneur with soft eyes that hinted at untold stories. He was taller than most, with an air of sadness clinging to him, contrasting sharply with the glints of power he held. One fateful encounter at a cafe turned into an opportunity. "You speak Mandarin?" he asked, hope flickering in his gaze. Their conversation flowed like a rich tapestry, each thread woven together by shared experiences of hardship. They bantered over cups of steaming tea, their lives intersecting despite the vast gaps in their social standings, but just as the bond between them began to strengthen, dark clouds loomed overhead. Whispers of scandal circled James like vultures, old wounds itching to be exposed and laid bare. The billionaire smiled, but Ava could sense his turmoil. "I can't risk everything," he confessed, pushing the table back as tension climbed in the air. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Ava felt the stakes rising, her gut tight with uncertainty. She thought of her parents' sacrifices, of every late-night struggle. "You can't let them take this from you," she urged, but James's expression darkened. He stared into the abyss of his past, ready to let go of everything that mattered, and Ava felt her resolve harden into steel. Could she stand tall beside him, fight for what was right when the world pushed them to their knees? Would their friendship withstand the storm brewing on the horizon? Ava stood on the precipice of the unknown, ready to face whatever might come next. Could they weather the tempests together, or would their worlds shatter apart, leaving just whispers of what could have been? Ava watched James's retreating figure, feeling an ache in her heart. His words echoed in her mind, clawing their way into her resolve. He was a man burdened by his own shadows, and despite their differences, the connection they shared ran deeper than mere coincidence. The thought of losing him felt like a betrayal to everything she had worked for. "Why do you care?" she whispered to the wind, not expecting a response. But the silence around her felt heavy, as if the world paused, urging her on. Days turned into restless nights. The campus sprawled out before her in a maze of opportunity and hidden dangers. With each passing moment, she could feel the weight of expectations pressing down on her shoulders, but deeper still was the urge to stand for something greater, not just for herself, but for everyone who dared to dream against the odds. The whispers about James grew louder. Students talked in hushed tones behind his back, gossiping about the scandalous rumors. It filled Ava with frustration. How could they tear him down without even knowing him? She found herself wandering into cafeteria debates, defending him with passion she didn't know she possessed. Do you really think he's like that? She argued. Just because he has money doesn't mean he's bad. He's a person, just like us, facing his own battles. Their scoffs pricked her like thorns, but each challenge only fueled her determination. Ava decided she would confront James. She needed answers. The tension between them hung in the air every time they met, she could almost taste it on her tongue. So one afternoon, she found him on the steps of the library, staring out at the campus, lost in thought. "James," she called softly, walking up to him. He turned, his expression a mix of surprise and something that looked like fear. "We need to talk." "About what?" His voice was strained, as though he was fighting an invisible battle. "About you and this. What's happening?" She gestured to the bustling campus around them, to the whispers drifting through the air. "You can't just hide from it." His eyes flashed with something anger or sadness, she couldn't tell. "You don't understand what's at stake. I've built everything I have for my family, for my legacy. If I slip even a little, I lose it all. But you shouldn't have to carry that by yourself." Ava stepped closer. "I can help. Let me in. We can face it together." "Together?" He laughed, a hollow sound that didn't reach his eyes. "You really think this is something you want to be a part of?" "I'm at the center of a storm, Ava. It's not pretty. And I'm used to storms," she replied firmly, heart pounding. "I know what it's like to fight for what matters. Don't push me away. I refuse to let you shut me out." For a moment, silence draped over them, filled with unspoken fears and hope. Then, unexpectedly, he stepped back, the distance between them growing. "I'm sorry I can't put you in harm's way. It's better this way." Ava felt a rush of adrenaline, fighting against the urge to back down. What if you're past isn't who you are now? What if we could redefine that? James's conflicted gaze softened, just for a second. But then it hardened again. "You don't know what you're asking for." But maybe she did. A flicker of determination kindled in her. What if this was the moment? The moment they faced their fears and forged a new path. The moment they took control of their own stories. "Then let me decide that for myself," she said, her voice steady. "Because I won't abandon you. Not now, not ever." As his eyes searched hers, the future felt as uncertain as ever. Would he embrace the power of unity, or would he shatter the fragile connection they had built? In that tense silence, the world around them faded away, and for the first time, they teetered on the brink of something monumental. The weight of their choices loomed ahead, heavy with potential, but just as James opened his mouth to respond, Ava's phone buzzed in her pocket, a message that could alter everything. What would it reveal? Her heart raced as she pulled out her phone, knowing that whatever news it held could send ripples through their lives. "James, wait," she said, eyes glued to the screen. "You need to see this." Ava stared at the message illuminated on her phone. It was a news alert, bright and invasive. The headline left her breathless, revealed, "How a janitor's daughter speaking Mandarin gave a billionaire an incredible life-changing opportunity." She felt her heart pound in her chest, a mix of curiosity and dread flooding her senses. "What?" James leaned in, his brow furrowing as he studied her expression. The urgency in his voice beckoned her to share. She turned the phone toward him. "It's about the donations. And there's a mention of you." A flicker of dread crossed his face. "What does it say?" "Hang on." She scrolled down, her fingers trembling slightly. The article detailed a series of recent charitable donations that James's family had been involved in, a foundation set up in response to his late father's vision of giving back to the community. But then, it dropped a bombshell. The story shifted to a lower-income student, the daughter of a janitor, who had miraculously helped bridge business ties with a Mandarin-speaking client. James's expression clouded, a mix of annoyance and disbelief. He ran his hand through his hair, showcasing the tension building in him. Why would they care about this? It's just a charity move, nothing significant. James, it sounds significant. They're tying it into your reputation. It's making you look good, but it's also painting a target on your back. They're asking how accurate this woman's story is, Ava said, trying to gauge his reaction. No. It's all a distraction. He stepped back again, a look of frustration crossing his face. The stories they tell about me add fuel to the fire. But if they want to paint you as something you're not, we can turn it around. You can embrace it, improve your image with the truth. Her heart raced. She could see a glimmer of hope, but it was hidden beneath layers of uncertainty. What do you know about my life? He snapped suddenly, eyes narrowing. Do you have any idea the kind of lies they spread? This is all about control. If I let them inject me into their narratives, I'm done. Ava felt her heart sinking. She shook her head, fighting to keep her focus on him rather than the doubts creeping in. James, I've seen your generosity firsthand. You care about these people, about helping others who struggle. That matters. Does it? His voice was barely above a whisper, but it resonated with a deep-rooted pain. Does it really matter when everyone just sees me as a monster? Maybe not at first. But if you own your story, show them you're not just your past, you can reshape your destiny, Ava urged, stepping closer to him. She could feel the tension in the air, thick and electric, that he paused, his defenses still high, but a part of him seemed to melt at her words. What if I fail? Then we'll fail together. But we won't know unless we try, she insisted, her fingers brushing against his arm. It was a small gesture, but it conveyed solidarity. Together, they were stronger. Just then, a group of students walked past, their laughter cutting through the weight of the moment. Some of them eyed James with suspicion. Ava caught their furtive glances, whispering rumors that pierced the fragile bubble of hope they were trying to create. See? They'll never understand, James muttered grimly, pulling away again. But Ava saw the strain in his eyes, the inner turmoil torn between the past and a flicker of possibility. Maybe, she said softly. But we can create our own narrative. We can show them who you really are. Is it worth it? His gaze met hers, searching for an answer that seemed elusive. The fear mixed with longing resonated, a deep pulse that both terrified and excited them. Before Ava could respond, her phone buzzed again, another message lighting up the screen. But this time, it felt like an unwanted intrusion, a reminder that they hadn't yet escaped the storm surrounding them. James, she hesitated. What if there's more to uncover about this story? What if it leads to something larger than we ever imagined? As uncertainty swirled between them, the next message could change everything. Ava felt a mix of dread and anticipation, knowing that the threads of the truth were still waiting to be pulled. But would they be brave enough to unravel them together? Ava's heart raced as she swiped open the message, anticipation and fear dancing in her chest. The words flashed across her screen, igniting a sense of urgency. Interview request from local news outlet, follow-up on the recent article. Interested in your perspective. An interview? James echoed incredulously, his voice tinged with disbelief. Why would they want to talk to me? Because you're part of the story now, James. It's more than just charity, you're being pulled in. Ava tried to keep her tone light while the gravity of the situation weighed heavily upon them. He inhaled sharply, a cloud of frustration hovering over him. I should have known they wouldn't just let this go. They thrive on sensationalism. Ava stepped closer, her voice steady. But we can control this, James. If you speak out, if you share your truth, you can turn their narrative around. This is our chance. His blue eyes hardened, a wall going back up. He shook his head, as if trying to shake off the weight of expectation. You think they care about the truth? They don't want it. They just want the story that feeds their agenda. Maybe, she agreed, her voice softening. But the truth has power. It connects with people. You've seen it, felt it. And if you don't say anything, they'll paint you however they want. Maybe I'd rather stay quiet. The defiance was there, a storm brewing behind his facade. But she could see the cracks, a flicker of uncertainty in his posture. Ava felt an urge to reach out, to bridge the gap. Look, your family's foundation is doing incredible work. You have a platform. You can inspire others, be a voice for those who don't have one. Please don't let fear hold you back. He swallowed hard, the tension between them palpable. And what if I say something wrong? What if I make it worse? Then we'll handle it, she insisted, urgency creeping back into her tone. But you need to take the first step. Be brave with me, James. We're in this together. A silence enveloped them as he considered her words, the shadows of doubt fighting against the flickers of hope. She could see the weight of the world on his shoulders, the burden of expectations threatening to pull him under. Just then, a burst of laughter echoed from the hallway, cutting through their tense moment. Students streamed past, their careless joy starkly contrasting the serious conversation they were having. Ava's heart sank as she saw some of their gazes dart toward James. Whispers followed them, a ghost of judgment lingering in the air. Look, they're judging us already, he muttered, his despair deepening with each passing glance. Ava could feel her spirit deflating, but she stood firm. They don't know you, James. That's why you have to let them in. Just think about it, if they can see your heart, if you can show them that you care. His clenched jaw softened slightly, but fear still loomed large in his expression. I don't know if I can do it. But what if you can? She pressed gently. What if you could change not just their perspective but also your own? A moment of silence stretched between them, the possibility hanging in the air like a fragile thread waiting to be pulled. Finally, James sighed, a mix of resignation and determination flaring in his gaze. What if I do step forward and it explodes in my face? Then we'll face it together, she reassured him, stepping closer until their shoulders almost touched. But if you don't try, you'll never know what could happen. You could change everything. His hesitation crumbled slightly, replaced with a flicker of resolve. Okay, I'll think about it. But just when it seemed like they were making progress, Ava's phone buzzed again. A new message flashed, a photo from the news article, but this one was all too familiar. It was of the janitor's daughter, smiling brightly. The caption read, "The young woman who changed a billionaire's life." Ava's stomach twisted. James, do you think? He tilted his head, brow furrowing again. Think what, Ava? What if she knows something more? Something about the foundation or about you? James looked away, wrestling with uncertainty once more. And if she does? Before she could answer, another message pinged. This one was from an unknown number. Meet me. I have information. A shiver ran down Ava's spine as she felt the weights of their choices pressing down. What unfolds next, they both sensed, could redefine everything. But the question lingered, were they prepared for the truths they might uncover? Ava's mind raced. The message felt heavy, like a dark cloud settling over them. It was one thing to anticipate questions from the news, it was another to think someone might hold the keys to James's past, to the very thing that haunted him. She glanced at him, trying to gauge his reaction. His face was a mixture of curiosity and dread. Should we go? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. James frowned, his brows knitting together. What if it's a trap? What if they're just trying to twist the story again? Ava took a breath, trying to present the pulse of hope that was still fighting within her. What if it isn't? What if it's the truth we need? We can't be scared of what we might find out. He shifted nervously, his fingers drumming on the edge of his phone. You really think it could help? I don't know, she replied honestly. But it might. And if we're going to face this interview, don't you want to have all the information on the table? With a resigned sigh, he nodded slowly. Okay, let us meet. But if it feels wrong, we walk away. They agreed to meet at a small diner just a few blocks away, a place where the clatter of dishes and the hum of conversation could drown out their thoughts. Ava felt the weight of expectation building as they walked down the street, each step heavier than the last. What kind of information would they uncover? Would it bring clarity or just more confusion? When they entered the diner, the smell of fresh coffee filled the air, mingling with the sweet scent of donuts. Bright lights flickered above them, casting a warm glow that clashed with the uncertainty swirling in Ava's mind. They chose a booth in the corner, hoping for some semblance of privacy amidst the casual bustle. Minutes felt like hours as they waited, the tension between them palpable. James kept glancing at the door, his fingers tapping away on the table, almost like a metronome matching the rhythm of their growing anxiety. Finally, she spotted a figure approaching the janitor's daughter, whose name she still didn't know. She was petite, with dark hair tied back in a neat bun, wearing an old hoodie that seemed a size too big. For a moment, Ava felt a flash of guilt. This girl, perhaps just trying to live her life, was entangled in something much bigger than herself. As she sat in front of them, the nervous energy radiated off her. "Hi, I'm Mia," she said softly, her voice almost drowned out by the chatter around them. "Thanks for meeting me." "Thank you for reaching out," Ava replied, forcing herself to maintain eye contact. "This is important to us." Mia nodded, cheeks flushing. I saw the article. And I thought you might want to know what really happened." James shifted, intrigue mingling with caution. "What do you mean?" Mia took a deep breath, her fingers twisting the hem of her hoodie as she gathered her thoughts. "I knew your family's foundation. I knew your dad. I worked for him." The air thickened with tension. James's eyes widened, a mix of recognition and apprehension swirling in them. "What do you know about me?" Mia's gaze fell to the table, and Ava could see a battle raging beneath her surface. "I know about your mom and why she stopped the foundation's work for a while." James's jaw tightened, anger and hurt clashing within him. "What does that have to do with anything?" Mia hesitated, then took another steadying breath. "It has everything to do with how I changed your life and why you felt you couldn't speak up in the first place." A chill crept down Ava's spine, mirroring the shock on James's face. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to shift, revealing a narrative they weren't prepared to confront. Before they could ask more, Mia raised her hand to quiet them. "There's a reason I reached out. It's not just about you, there's more at stake here. It involves your family and my father." Ava's heart raced, the implications sinking in. What if this meeting opened up truths they hadn't been ready to face? "Are you sure you want to hear this?" Mia asked, glancing between them. The gravity of her words hung in the air, heavy with anticipation. James's eyes glimmered with a mix of hope and fear. "Tell us, Mia, we need to know." The diner faded into the background as the three of them leaned in, the weight of the moment threatening to break open secrets long buried. In that charged atmosphere, Ava couldn't help but wonder, what revelations waited just beneath the surface. Mia took a deep breath, her chest rising and falling in a rhythm that mirrored the tension swirling in the booth. "I didn't know your dad for long, but he cared about people. His foundation was supposed to help them help us. But it changed after the accident." James leaned forward, his voice low. "What accident?" Mia hesitated, closing her eyes briefly as if bracing herself. "Your mother, she didn't just stop working with the foundation because she was upset. She felt guilty. There were whispers, people saying that it was partially because of your dad's decisions. That he pushed too hard." Ava felt a knot in her stomach. "What do you mean?" Mia opened her eyes, focusing on James. "I heard things, okay. Your father's vision for the foundation was ambitious. He wanted to do big things, change lives. But sometimes that meant taking risks that your mother couldn't accept after it all happened. James recoiled, running a hand through his hair. What are you saying? That somehow this was my fault. No. No, it's not about blame, Mia rushed to clarify, her voice urgent. But when bad things happen, people look for someone to hold responsible, right? Sometimes, it's easier to find a scapegoat than to confront the real issues. The words hung between them, thick with all the unsaid realities weaving through their lives. Ava could feel the tension shift. James was caught in a storm of emotions, pain, confusion, the flickers of anger. What does this have to do with you? He asked, voice trembling slightly. Why does it concern you at all? Mia's fingers twisted tighter around the hem of her hoodie. Because my father was involved, even if only tangentially. He was a maintenance worker at the foundation. He saw everything that went down behind the scenes. And I think he knew things that could help you understand what really happened. Things that might explain why things ended the way they did. Ava and James exchanged a quick glance, their unspoken thoughts colliding in the silence. They weren't just dealing with James's haunted past anymore, this was becoming a shared history, a haunting that wrapped around all of them. But why come to us now? Ava pressed, feeling a surge of urgency. Why risk telling us this? Mia swallowed hard. Because I think it's time to set the record straight. It's unfair to carry these stories around, to let misunderstandings ruin lives. And honestly, I've seen what silence can do. My dad's never been the same since. James clenched his jaw, as if trying to process the depth of what Mia was saying. And what do you want from us? What are you asking for? I want you to remember and to share. Maybe together, we can find some closure. Maybe we can bring a little peace back, not just for your family, but for mine too, Mia said, her voice growing steadier. But you have to be ready for the truth. And trust me, it's not just about your dad having made mistakes. It's bigger than that. Ava felt her heart race again, caught between the weight of Mia's words and the fragile hope they might unravel something important. A truth buried too long, not just for James, but for everyone. What if it's too much to handle? James whispered, the shadows flickering in his eyes. What if knowing more just makes things worse? Mia leaned in closer. Maybe. But wouldn't you rather know? Wouldn't it be better than living in this fog of uncertainty? The enormity of her question hung in the air, pulling Ava into its orbit. The thought of being haunted by unanswered questions felt unbearable. James's breath seemed to catch, the weight of his decision teetering on the edge. I don't know if I'm ready. Ava's pulse quickened at the vulnerability in his voice. They were on the brink of something monumental, a commitment to confront their pasts and each other or retreat into the shadows still looming over them. Mia added softly, we don't have to do this alone. We can figure it out together. As the lights flickered above them, the moment felt fragile, pregnant with possibility. Would James take the plunge with her? Would he choose to confront the demons, or would he walk away, leaving the pieces scattered on the floor? James, Ava said quietly, her eyes locking onto his intense gaze. What do you want? What are you willing to fight for? His answer could open a door they could never close again. Ava held her breath, waiting for the decision that could change everything. James stared at Ava, a whirlwind of thoughts flashing through his mind like an old movie reel. The question hung heavy between them, vibrant with possibility and risk. For a moment, he felt the urge to answer, to let the floodgates open and drown out the uncertainty. But all he could manage was a soft, shaky exhale. I don't know, he finally admitted, his voice breaking slightly. Ava's heart sank a little. She wanted him to say something resolute, something that would clear the mist hanging over them. But she understood this was big. The kind of weight that felt like it could break you or set you free. Mia leaned back, her face a mixture of empathy and understanding. You don't have to decide right now. We can take baby steps. Just think about what knowing the truth would mean for you, for your mom and for both our families. The enormity of it all wrapped around Ava. She picked at the edge of the table, the rough surface grounding her as she fought to understand what was unfolding. What if we could understand it all better? Maybe we can really start to heal those rifts. If what Mia is saying is true, if there are secrets buried beneath this, James's fingers tightened over the table's edge. But what if it opens more wounds? What if we learn something that changes everything I thought I knew about my dad? His voice cracked. James, Mia interrupted gently. It's about regaining your power. The truth can scare us, but it can also be freeing. How can we move forward if we're weighed down by silence? I don't know, he trailed off, looking lost. Ava caught his eye again and held it. James, think of it like this, even if it hurts, it could be a chance to change everything. To reclaim his legacy, to build your own. You don't have to do it alone. We're right here with you. For a fleeting moment, James seemed to draw strength from her words. The corners of his mouth turned up ever so slightly, a hint of determination flickering through the turmoil. But that light was quickly extinguished by his thoughts. What if we dig around in the past, only to uncover things that ruin my family even more? He was on the precipice of something important, yet the same fear held him back. Mia reached out, her hand hovering over James's. What if we find something that brings us together instead? Something that helps all of us start anew. The silence stretched again, the noise of the diner fading into a white noise backdrop. Ava could sense the emotional stakes rising. This could either be their moment of unity or a moment of painful retreat. She felt the air electrify with tension, thickening around them as they confronted their choices. A waitress walked by, obliviously carrying a tray laden with coffee cups. The aroma permeated the air, but it didn't penetrate the heaviness. As he sat there, hunched over with conflict, James felt the weight scratching at the corners of his mind. In that moment, he truly looked at Ava and Mia. They weren't just friends or acquaintances, they were partners in navigating this maze of the past. Okay, he whispered, voice steadying just a fraction. I'll think about it. I'll think about what it means to confront it all. Mia's face lit up, relief flooding her features. That's all I ask for now. One step at a time. Ava glanced at her watch, aware of the time creeping forward. We have time. Let us take it slow. Walk through this together. James nodded, something in his eyes shifting. Yeah, together. As they took a collective breath, the promise of something new settled around them, fragile yet powerful. James felt slivers of courage inching through him, the realization that the journey was just beginning. They had a chance to rewrite their narratives. Still, doubt lingered like a shadow. Would he truly be able to brave the truths awaiting them? Just then, Ava's phone buzzed on the table, breaking the moment. She glanced down, her heart racing as a message flashed across the screen from an unknown number. I know what really happened. If you want the truth, meet me at the old warehouse on 5th and Oak tonight. The sudden shift in atmosphere amplified her anxiety. They were on the cusp of something monumental, and now it felt like they were being pulled deeper into the rabbit hole. Who is it? James asked, leaning closer, concern etched on his face. Ava's fingers trembled, the weight of unexpected revelation settling in once more. I don't know. Maybe it's time to find out, Mia pressed, her excitement mingled with apprehension. They were at the brink of a decision, one that could lead them further into the pain or deliver the clarity they'd been searching for. Would they chase after the mystery, or would they let fear guide their choices? Ava glanced at James and Mia, her heart racing. What do you think? Should we go? In that moment, everything changed. Would they dare to uncover the unknown, risking the fragile bonds they had just begun to build? Ava took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. The words on her screen felt like a weight, a call to action that loomed ominously before them. She searched James's face, looking for a clue, a sign that this was something they should pursue. His brows furrowed and uncertainty flickered in his eyes. She could empathize, fear was a powerful thing. Maybe we should, Mia began, but she was interrupted by James shaking his head, uncertainty written all over his expression. What if it's a trap? he said, glancing around as if the walls might have ears. I mean, who even is this? They claim to have information, but what if it's just someone looking to stir up trouble? But what if they really have answers? Ava pressed, her voice a mixture of hope and desperation. What if they can tell us what happened? What if it changes everything for you? James rubbed the back of his neck, his eyes darting towards the diner's entrance. It could change everything for better or worse. I just don't know if I'm ready for that. The waitress returned, filling their cups with fresh coffee, oblivious to the tension tugging at the trio. Ava watched the dark liquid swirl, stirring together like the chaos of emotions inside her. She needed to believe this meeting might lead to clarity, to healing. Mia leaned closer, her hand brushing against James's. Remember, you won't be alone in this. We're in it together. Whatever we find out, we face it together. James nodded slowly, the courage she saw in him now flickered like a candle in the wind. Okay, his voice was barely a whisper, yet it held the weight of a decision made, a path chosen. Let us go. But if anything feels off, I know, Ava interrupted, determination edging her voice. We won't hesitate to walk away. With a newfound resolve, they stood up. The sun had dipped low, casting long shadows across the pavement as they stepped out into the cool evening air that wrapped around them in a comforting embrace. As they walked towards Fifth and Oak, the city buzzed with life around them. People moved about, some lost in their phones, others engaged in laughter or deep conversations. Yet inside Ava, the turmoil felt more prominent. She clutched the strap of her purse, her mind racing with a mix of anticipation and dread. What do you think they want to tell us? Mia asked, breaking the silence. Her words hung heavy, underscoring the gravity of the situation. James shrugged, a whirlwind of thoughts evident in his expression. Part of me hopes it's something that can actually help. But there's that other part, you know, the one that's filled with doubts and fears. They turned a corner, the dilapidated warehouse coming into view. It loomed in the dusk, an unsettling blend of intrigue and anxiety. Ava's heart pounded. They were on the edge of a precipice, ready to leap into the unknown. What if it's not what we expect? James said, hesitating at the entrance. Then we deal with it, Ava replied, her voice steadier than she felt. This is about learning the truth, no matter what it looks like. With a shaky breath, James pushed the door open, its creak echoing down the vast emptiness inside. The warehouse seemed alive, filled with memories of its past. Hello. A voice echoed from the shadows, and they froze in place, the unmistakable chill of anticipation creeping up their spines. The figure emerged, lifting a worn hood to shield their face. You came, they said, the tone eerily calm, almost like they knew this moment was inevitable. Ava exchanged a nervous glance with James and Mia. This was it. The moment of truth awaited. And as the figure stepped closer, the reality of their choices began to settle in. Are you ready to hear what I have to say? The figure asked, a knowing glint in their eyes. With their hearts pounding, they took a collective breath, stepping into the darkness of the unknown, where each truth could either heal or shatter them. What would they learn? Who were they about to become on the other side of this revelation? As the figure stepped closer, Ava realized they were standing at a crossroads. Shadowy corners filled with memories seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the next revelation. The dim light flickered, revealing hints of familiarity in the figure's stance. They moved like they were carrying secrets, dressed in a loose coat that looked like it had seen better days. I've been waiting for you, the figure continued, their voice lower now, drawing Ava closer. You're here because you need to know the truth, and you're here because fate has pulled you into this. James's grip on Mia tightened, and Ava could see the uncertainty swirling in his eyes. Fate? Or chance? He shot back, trying to mask his anxiety with skepticism. Choices you've made, choices your families have made. The figure paused, surveying them like a chess master expects a gambit to unfold. They ripple outwards. They don't fade into nothingness. They come back. Tell us what you know, Ava urged, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. They nodded slowly. It's about your past. Your parents, Ava. They were more connected than you can imagine. Her stomach dropped. What do you mean? Your father was involved in something much larger than you think, the figure replied, their voice carrying the weight of 1,000 unsaid words. James shifted on his feet, unease creeping back in. And how would you know that? I've watched, listened, deciphered. I'm not your enemy. I'm here to open your eyes. Open our eyes to what? Mia's voice broke through, vulnerable yet fierce. To the truth behind everything that happened. The figure leaned in, lowering their voice. And to who you are now. Ava's heart raced. Was it possible that everything she thought she knew was a facade? She thought of late nights filled with whispered conversations, of her mother's tears and her father's long-withheld secrets. Reality was shifting beneath her like sand, and she feared what she might uncover. Why now? She pressed. Why tell us this? Because secrecy breeds fear, and fear paralyzes, the figure answered, standing taller. You're not just here to find answers. You're here to take control of your own story. But understanding comes at a cost. A chill ran down her spine, the weight of their words wrapping around her. She glanced at James, struggling with his own fears, and at Mia, who was visibly shaken but still resolute. Cost? James repeated, his voice laced with tension. What exactly does that mean? Truth is power, but it's not free, the figure said cryptically. Once you know, there is no turning back. You'll forge your own destiny, but the shadow of the past will always follow. Ava took a step back, processing their words. The shadows of the warehouse felt suffocating now. What if we're not ready for that? You must ask yourselves, what are you willing to sacrifice for the truth? The figure's gaze pierced through her, as if they were daring her to step closer to the edge. Ava swallowed, her emotions a tangled mess of fear and bravery. What if this was the moment they had been waiting for? Or was it a veiled threat, pulling them deeper into a darkness they might not escape? Would the price of truth be more than they could bear? Her heart pounded in her chest, and she felt time slow. This was more than just a conversation, it was a reckoning. Are you still willing to listen? The figure asked softly, the tension thick in the air. Ava exchanged glances with James and Mia, their expressions mirroring the tumult inside her. Did they dare take the plunge? What would it mean for them, and what answers would they uncover? In that moment, Ava knew one thing, the choice lay before them, and whatever lay beyond the door could change their lives forever. What happens next? She whispered, feeling the weight of the decision press down on her shoulders. The figure stepped back into the shadows, their eyes glinting with mystery. That's up to you, they said, leaving a lingering chill in the air. With their hearts racing, they stood at the brink of a new reality, faced with the unknown. But as they looked back at the doorway from which they came, Ava knew one thing remained certain, there was no going back now. They had already stepped into the story that would decide their future. What truths awaited them in the depths of their families' pasts, and how would it forever alter the lives they thought they understood? Ava felt the air crackle with tension as the figure stepped back into the shadows. Momentarily, it felt like the world around them faded, leaving just the three of them, their hearts racing, the weight of possibilities pressing down. They were on the brink of a decision, and everything had led to this moment. What are we willing to sacrifice for the truth? Ava mused, her voice barely above a whisper, as if saying it out loud would somehow open the floodgates to their futures. James looked between Ava and Mia, his gaze steady yet uncertain. It feels wrong to back away now, he said, his voice carrying a determination that rose above his lingering doubts. I can't spend another day haunted by what-ifs. Mia nodded, her hand resting firmly on the table. I want to be free of the shadows too. We owe it to ourselves and to our families to understand. The figure watched them, an enigmatic smile playing on their lips as if they knew the path before them. Then let us begin. The truth isn't always pretty, but it's yours to hold. With a collective inhale, they stepped deeper into the warehouse, the shadows enveloping them as the figure took the lead. "Your families are intertwined in ways you couldn't begin to understand," they said, their voice echoing slightly in the cavernous space. Ava's heart raced. She was ready to uncover whatever lay hidden, but the fear of what that might reveal felt like a storm brewing inside her. They followed the figure through a series of back rooms, each step heavier than the last. Soon, they found themselves in an area cluttered with old files, dusty memorabilia, and remnants of history. "This is where the stories were born," the figure said, gesturing to the scattered belongings. "These files tell of ambitions, of failures, and also of hope. This is where your past converges." A flood of emotions washed over Ava. Each file seemed like a door open to a past she hadn't fully known. She spotted stacks of documents labeled with her father's name, with handwritten notes noting moments of triumph and strife. "Why are these here?" she asked breathlessly. "They're the pieces of your legacy," the figure responded. "Your father envisioned a future that sought to break barriers, yet the ghosts of the past have kept it shackled." James stepped closer, his fingers grazing the stacks, the tension etched in his furrowed brow. "What do the records say about my parents?" he asked, desperation lacing his tone. "Those records reflect their struggles and sacrifices. They also reveal the misunderstandings that enveloped both of your families," the figure explained. "But you must decide how to wield this knowledge." As Ava communicated her unspoken intent through her eyes, James leaned in. "So, what's the catch? If we take this knowledge, what else comes with it?" The figure tilted their head, their expression solemn. "Embracing the truth requires bravery. It means facing the discomfort of your own narratives, confronting those who've wronged you, and possibly mending relationships you thought would remain broken." Mia squeezed Ava's hand tightly, a silent agreement that they would face whatever came together. "We can bear it, can't we?" she whispered. "Together," Ava affirmed, her voice steady, the doubt within her fading like mist in sunlight. "Whatever we find, we'll do it together." "Then let us begin the unveiling," the figure said as they spread open a file marked with both their surnames. "This is where you choose to break the chains of the past." With bated breath, they leaned in closer, absorbing the words that began to reshape their shared destinies. As they read, the walls of past judgment began to crumble, and the choking grip of secrecy loosened. They learned of their families' intertwined histories of friendship turned strained by misunderstanding, of aspirations lofty enough to ignite both admiration and jealousy. As the pieces started to fit together, Ava felt a shift deep within her as if the fire ignited by her father's sacrifices was beginning to turn to steam, ready to propel them forward. "This isn't just about righting wrongs," James said, his spirit lifting, a new resolve blooming within him. "It's about honoring the legacy both our families left behind and by doing so, creating our own." In that moment, that revelation was the true breakthrough they sought. Their connection strengthened by understanding no longer shadows lurking in hallways, but beacons of hope ready to face the world head-on. "What now?" Mia asked, fire flashing in her eyes. Ava glanced around the room, at the stories that begged to be shared. "Now we tell it. All of it. We'll take the truths we've uncovered and rewrite the narratives." They faced the doorway from where they came, now symbolizing the past behind them. A new path opened, bright and inviting. The shadows of uncertainty no longer suffocated them, they were ready to carve out their own identities and share their intertwined stories with the world. "Let us go," James said, a fire igniting in his soul. Ava and Mia followed him, leaving the past behind. As they stepped into the warmth of the evening light beyond the warehouse, Ava smiled, anticipation thrumming through her. They had the chance to reclaim their futures and transform their stories. This was just the beginning of a new chapter, one where they took control of their destinies together. Now, it's your moment. Subscribe immediately to stay connected for more exclusive stories that inspire. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, making sure these incredible journeys reach more hearts. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending, the transformations that warmed your soul. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of standing together and supporting our community through these actions.